Well, I'm John, and I had this big idea for today, but I just felt too awkward to do it. And I started listening to this meditation and working on it, and it was a sound therapy, and then they had vocal tone poems where you just said words that didn't mean anything and just sing it. And I couldn't do it without feeling like an absolute geek. So this morning I'm like, man, I'm just not ready to do it yet. If I go up, I'm just going to be like, and it's not that I don't feel comfortable singing or using my voice. I do, but it's so different. And having said that, it's been so remarkably beautiful. I made a tone poem for myself that I called Love Letters to the Dead. And it's whenever I remember people who had died, I just do a song with all the sadness and grief and beauty and happiness and joy I have had with them becoming part of me over time. And so, and even just saying I feel like crying, having said that, I can't sing it in front of you guys. I just feel too raw. Maybe I'm too raw about it. That might be it. But it's been a wonderful thing, and I'll share it sometime. So I decided today, you guys can be comfortable, and I'm just going to go over reflection. And I've decided an important part of my Buddhist practice and my practice in recovery, and I don't even know if I want to call myself a Buddhist anymore. I think I want to call myself an earthling, because I feel like that's really what I am. I'm just somebody who lives on the earth with just like all the animals and all the people, and I think that's how I feel spiritually connected anymore. And I feel like that's something that is true to me, at least now, but it feels like it's going to be true for quite a while. Hello. So this is the story of my parking strip. When I first moved into my house, I wanted the perfect yard. So I'd spend all this time and all this water on the parking strip so it looked like a golf course between the street and the sidewalk. And I began to see it as wasteful, and my ideas on how the yard should be really changed. So one day I said, well, I'm just going to take out the grass and put down some weed net and fill it with rocks. So it'll just be rocks and I don't put a ton of water in it anymore. And I did that, and it was a lot of work. And that was over 10 years ago. In the meantime, my relationship with my yard was changing, because I'd look in the yard, and I saw dandelions, and I haven't written down so I remember, but white clover, broadleaf plantain, crabgrass, bindleweed, which has all these beautiful white flowers, and purslane, and yellow clover, and burdock. And almost all of these can be used as food or medicine. And everyone wants to eliminate them from their yard so they can have that, this comes from England, that perfect green manicured look like the wealthy people in England had. And at some point I just didn't want that anymore. I wanted purslane, I wanted white clover, I wanted grass as a part, as a community, not as just a monoculture thing. I wanted dandelions. When I'd made that decision, some of my neighbors became very angry and called me irresponsible and said I needed to dump chemicals all over my yard, that the responsible thing would be to dump a bunch of poisonous chemicals all over my yard. And I was being disrespectful. And I managed not to make it a fight, like an emotional fight. But I said, if you do that in your yard, I have no control. But I am going to have dandelions and all these things in my yard. I felt more connected to it. Going back to my parking strip, I'd had rheumatoid arthritis for a while, but I'd had my first major episode of it where my hands and my feet were in pain all the time, and my ability to do any yard work had really gone down. So I was really fortunate that I'd made peace with all those weeds in my yard. And so over time, the leaves would fall on the rocks, and I'd get what leaves off I could, but those leaves that stayed in there, and the rain came down and the wind came in and they turned in the soil, and it just became filled with lots of weeds. And it was unsightly looking even to me, but I was in pain. And then by the time I decided to take medicine, it had grown out of control. And this is something that had often happened in my life, so I could just see my parking strip as something, wow, it is such a mess, I don't want to touch it, like so many things in my life, you know? Like my addictions that I have, some of the issues I just don't want to deal with. I didn't want to deal with that parking strip. And it was beautiful when I'd had it before. But what I'd forgotten is for me the therapy of dirty hands. There is something wonderful and spiritual and great for my mental health when I get my hands dirty. And having forgotten that, I did not want to touch that strip. So I was looking out at my yard today, and there's no dandelions up. I can see the evidence of the dandelions, the leaves spreading out on the grass, but there's no flowers right now. And I was remembering that it was a powerful food and a powerful medicine, and a lot of cultures have used dandelions as metaphors for spiritual things. And I'd always used dandelions as a metaphor for things that just survive in all kinds of circumstances. For me, they're just such a powerful symbol of resilience. So if I sit and just think, I'm a dandelion, and go, I want to be like a dandelion, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, really, they're beautiful. They're filled with all sorts of things, and I just looked it up. And this is from Healthline, National Institute of Health. So these are scientists. And it's a nutritious plant. It fights inflammation if you eat it. It aids in blood sugar management, reduces cholesterol and triglyceride levels. It lowers blood pressure, promotes liver health, promotes kidney health, aids in weight loss, has anti-cancer effects, healthy digestion. It boosts immunity. It's good for our skin. Supports healthy bones. And there's one time in my life I just tried to weed these out and pull these out of my yard, and I'm looking, man, these things go far beyond being beautiful and a pest to other people. They are just loaded with all sorts of medicine, and they're a metaphor to a lot of different cultures, and to me they're a metaphor of resilience. They're this wonderful thing. And I remembered a story. This makes me feel happy and sad. There's an emotion that's happy and sad at the same time. I think we all know what it is. I wish we had a good word for it in English. But my mom, when I was a child, I have a lot of trauma with her, but she was very sick when I was a child. She had multiple sclerosis and she had mental health disorders. And as a child, when I wanted her to be happy, I'd see the dandelions sprout up in the yard. So I'd gather a handful of dandelions and take them into the house. And my mother would take those dandelions as a gift of love from me and put them in a very, very nice vase with water and just leave them there for a few days. And I don't think she cared that they were dandelions. I think she cared that I took the time to give her a gift. It's just so beautiful. So I've spent Friday, last Thursday and Friday, and today, I took the weekend off because my wife's birthday is coming up, and we did some stuff to celebrate that, and spent many, many hours taking out the rocks and the grass and getting ready to put paving stones and beauty bark and lavender and other things into the parking strip, and now it'll be looking nice again. And my story with that is I hadn't spent a lot of time in my yard since I'd had an arthritic attack. At first it was I was in pain, and then after that it's just I lost that relationship. And over that time I regained that relationship of digging, of swinging, a pick, of shoveling and moving out rocks, of ripping things out of, an area so I can put other things in, of getting dirt under my fingernails and on my face, of my skin just being, massaged by the sun and the wind. And I felt very, very happy doing that very strenuous labor. And it just reminded me of just being one with everything around me. So I'm excited. I'm not done with the project, but I'm getting there. I'm getting to the fun part. I've done a lot of the heavy work part. So now I'm going to turn Julia's clock. Oh, sorry. Oh, I've used some time. So we're just going to take a few minutes. I just invite you to think of a dandelion. Think of all the dandelions you've seen, where you've seen them growing. Thank you so much. And just think of yourself as a dandelion, something resilient, something that has all these gifts to give to people, something that is beautiful, and yet something that maybe a lot of people don't like. They don't appreciate it. And just be that and celebrate that, because in all ways, I think we are in some ways. It's a beautiful symbol. So I'll spend 3 minutes, and then I'll breathe in, breathe out, and just focus on that. Or you can just follow your breath. And I'll start now. Just be resilient and beautiful like a dandelion. Namaste. And so I'm going to do the dedication to Merit. We are of the nature of consciousness. We are made of consciousness and bliss. We are non-dual, pure in form, absolute, absolute knowledge, absolute love. We are changeless, devoid of desire or anger. We are detached. We are one essence, unlimitedness, utter consciousness. We are boundless bliss, existent and transcendent bliss. We are Buddha nature that revels in itself. We are Satchidananda that is eternal, enlightened, and pure. Namaste.